Okay, good. And is anyone online tonight? No, okay.
Everybody's here.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Hopkinton Select Board meeting tonight, January 9th, 2023. Happy New Year. I'm Sabrina Dunlap. We have Jeff Donahoe, Ken Trom, Stephen Whitley, and Thomas Lipoma will be joining us by phone, I think, soon. So first up is Points of Pride.
Sure, I have two I just want to share. Since we last met, we've had numerous storms through weekends and numerous accidents and slippery roads. So really just a thank you to everyone on staff that deals with that. And also, as we're going through the end of 2022 budget, just a thank you to how well the department heads all manage their budgets. We're in a very good place, and I thank them for that.
Mm-hmm. We all echo your thanks for sure. And
I'll just add on to what Neil said about what our safety people did in storms. The morning after one of the storms, I was walking my dog down by DPW at like 10:30 in the morning, and I see one of the guys leaving. He had slept there overnight because he was so tired from plowing. You know, that's the quality of the people that work for us. And there was the first day hike on the first, obviously, and wanted to thank Paula and Lucia and Cleve for organizing that.
Yeah, and just echoing, I mean, DPW does an amazing job, especially with the, it's like snow or freezing rain or a mix of both or whatever. And we are so fortunate to have them do such a good job on all of our roads, and they cover a lot of ground and just do a fantastic job. So I echo that. Thanks. Hi, Thomas. Can you hear us? We can't hear you though. Are you trying to talk?
I was. Now I'm unmuted. So I'm good.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Okay, so next up is approval of the consent agenda.
Sure.
Oh, wait, yeah, sorry, we had a vote to have Thomas officially join us. All right, Ken moved, Jeff seconded. So now it's roll call votes, I believe. Yes, a little rusty on this. Okay, so Stephen.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Emmy, yes?
Yes.
All right, Thomas, you're in.
Great.
Okay. All right, so first up is approval of the consent agenda.
Sure, I'll move we approve the consent to January 9, 2023.
Second.
All right, do a roll call vote. Thomas.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Approval of the public meeting minutes from December 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Thomas.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Abstain.
All right. Thank you. All right, first up, we have a public appointment with Anna Wells, our Economic Development Director, it said EDC, it threw me off. Oh, regarding the EDC housing recommendation.
Yes.
Okay.
So, thank you. Very low chair, very small. Thank you very much for taking the time to hopefully read the memo that I submitted earlier and to talk with me. And we have a couple members of the board here tonight. So just by way of background for people in the audience, the Economic Development Committee really believes that housing of any kind, but particularly housing that is reasonably priced, affordable, quote unquote, is an important economic development issue for one obvious reason, which is that employers need to employ people and people need to live somewhere in order to be employed. So that's part of the equation. So as you may have read in the memo, New Hampshire as a whole is facing a significant housing shortage. It's particularly notable in our region, the central New Hampshire region. Some of the estimates are that to meet demand by 2025, we'll have to increase our housing production by 233% in our central New Hampshire region, to meet that demand. And while we don't have specifically numbers for Hopkinton, it's pretty clear by the low vacancy, low inventory, quick sales, high prices, that Hopkinton's no exception to that. So the Economic Development Committee feels that it would be wise to assemble a group to really dive deep into how we can promote housing. And it's more than just the Economic Development Committee that ought to be involved. And so we wanted to bring it to you all to hopefully establish some sort of group, whether that is a committee, a task force, a subcommittee. It can take many different forms, as I think I shared links to other towns have done varying things to, address this issue in a similar way, convening groups to really be a task force and study this issue. So that is essentially where we are and where we're coming from, and what we hope can be accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you for the thorough memo.
Pleasure.
Very helpful. So, Stephen, do you have any thoughts since you're Economic Development Committee?
Yeah, I mean, I would add that, what preceded the recommendation that the committee made was we looked at the statutory framework for doing a housing commission. And that takes a vote of town meeting to set up. And it has some really specific sort of powers. And the committee was liked the idea in general, but what had some concerns about some of the powers that were mentioned, notably the ability for the committee to hold property, the commission to hold property and kind of act as a landlord and a developer. And so the thought was to create not the statutory commission, but a committee to do much of the same tasks, except for the power to hold property and act as a landlord and develop property. And so that was sort of how we got to the idea of forming a committee to do the sort of work that Anna just mentioned.
A separate committee from economic development or a subcommittee?
A separate committee from economic development, and whether it's a subcommittee of economic development or a subcommittee of the select board, I think is up to this.
Or a subcommittee of the planning board.
Or a subcommittee of,
There are many different
Yeah.
models.
And what would be the benefit of going the town meeting route?
To do a commission rather than a
Right,
committee.
is there opportunity for more grants or something like that?
That, yeah, I know what I mean.
I don't have a clear answer on that in particular. The one thing I do think that establishing a commission based on, the RSA sort of shows a stronger commitment to the issue. But that's just my sense of it. And I don't know if that's actually true.
Are either of you aware of any communities this size that have a commission?
So so Manchester has a commission. Obviously not, I understand. Obviously not. Which one? That's right. New London has a commission. That's right. And the others were, I wonder if Tilton's is. Tilton's also larger. No, and the others, and Durham's not even a commission either. So it's a fairly new statute as far as statutes go. So I don't think it has been used a whole lot. And I don't think there's been a ton of advocacy around using the statute until recently. Like this guide that I have here from New Hampshire Housing just came out at the end of this last year. So there hasn't been a lot of sort of support around forming commissions.
Recognizing that for some committees, I think economic development is one, we've had trouble getting full membership. Would you be able to staff a separate committee on this or even a subcommittee on this?
That was a concern we raised as well. Our feeling though is that because this is sort of a narrowed scope of EDC, of planning, of land use, of, you know, town functioning in general, that there may be people who this is a particular interest to them. This may be, remains to be seen, but there may be folks out there who wouldn't necessarily want to be part of the EDC, but housing in particular is their passion.
And there may be obviously some overlap in membership.
Right.
You know, we don't want to exclude people from planning or economic development or zoning or any of the other town boards.
Conservation.
Conservation
Yeah.
from participating.
Human services.
Yeah. Brittany, do you mind if I just ask if any of the other EDC members that are here?
No, please do.
You don't have to, but.
I would say, ABC member Greg Sagers, but also as a business owner in town, housing is the #1 need that we hear from the chamber, the other business members. We can't grow, there's no place to live. But as I said, the economic side of it is just one small part of the housing need in town. There's quality of life, it's the ability to downsize, stay in town, come into town as a starter. So I agree that we need it, and I think it should be a committee, but it doesn't necessarily, I don't think it should be an offshoot of the EDC. I think there's enough different facets to it that it can run parallel with a lot of what we do, but also what the planning board does and other groups without fully being under an umbrella. And as they both just said, I think there's enough a niche interest in housing in this town that we could pull other community members in that don't really want to sit through economic meetings or through our planning meetings, but might have a very good vested interest in making sure that there's places to live.
And I guess one final thing, I would, my personal sense of the Economic Development Committee is that we have a lot going on already. And so I think to add on this housing committee underneath the Economic Development Committee would maybe be a lot for us. And so ideally, I think it would be better if we didn't have to have oversight of it. And maybe this board or the planning board or, you know, someone else has oversight of it. But that can all, I think, be worked out once we decide whether to have it in the first place.
As long as the concept is palatable.
Oh,
Thank you. When Morgan, I'm trying to find my head straight. I think having, a committee to a commission to dig into the housing issue is very, very important for the town. We have wrestled with it on housing important for years. It is big time. It is really important. Rob Davis, who is the director of the Hampshire Housing Authority, gave a presentation to the planning board. Those people who attended, that was excellent. There is a division within the state and, intuitively within the town. Despite all the analytics that we would like to be able to pinpoint exactly what shortfall, where, and that type of deal. Putting a group together to kind of flesh out what is needed, to be able to make recommendations to select board as well as to the town. I think it would be a critical step. One thought of the commission, I'd like to say, it is an unbelievable big undertaking. Resource intensive. It is a time commitment, that a reporting commitment, and sure, it can get HUD grants, as I understand it, but now you're digging into a whole different arena of management,
and probably multiple consultants and managing them as well. So having a task force, a committee, that's put together collectively, I think it'd be very, very good. I also recommend that, maybe is to pull, members, initially to kind of put together what the overall mission and focus, should be, to include, zoning, conservation, planning, all of that, and as well as the EDCs to kind of put together really what the focus should be, because it's going to be, I understand there are monies available, or we're in New Hampshire, and they're going to spend 175,000.
That's the
That's the max.
the combined grant. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but if you're going to spend that kind of money. It's also closely managed, so to have a focus and a comfort level by everybody. This is going to really represent the town as a whole. So having multiple members from various disciplines, whether they be from existing committees or within the town themselves, I think it is a very, very good idea. We have not talked about this at the planning board for the committee, and it's going to be speaking to us tomorrow night. And we're going to flesh out more questions we may have in regards to that. My recommendation would definitely be, and I agree, having it under the EDC, I think there's a lot to be done. I mean, everybody's kind of has a full plate, and most of the people are volunteers, with, except
Part-time, yeah.
20 hours a week or whatever the hours have to be. But, this is an opportunity, I think, for the town to learn a lot more and to get some direction. See if we can solve some challenges as opposed to necessarily challenges faces. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Louise, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I was in support of having a committee versus just what Steve had mentioned, some of the responsibilities of a commission and holding the properties and things like such. I don't think that's in the best interest of Hopkinton. But a committee, especially the timing right now, it always seems like a chicken and egg thing. So we want to get industry in town, but when you talk to, a big, someone that come in with, industry, they said, well, where are our employees going to live? And we would have to pay them a lot more if they have to commute from all the town. So you have to look at the work housing. And then, so that has to get addressed, and we need to get moving forward on that so that we can start looking into bringing more industry in town. So it's kind of a twofold thing, but you have to start something. And this has been a discussion ever since I've been in town. So it's been a lot of years we've had the same discussion, but we've not taken any action to move forward with it. And now when we have the investing, now that we have that, and they're going to be working on part of the housing zoning, this is a perfect opportunity and time to pull this thing together. And the planning board, they're working on the zoning of housing and different parts of the zoning. I mean, to work together with them and then pull together something and come up with a concrete plan. So the first year, this is what's going to be accomplished, have like a 3 or 4 year plan. By the end of it, we'll be able to develop it here. And so it has to be very precise of exactly what we're going to be doing. And some thoughts on like who on committee would be, people that can bring the information we need, like a developer or someone from that realm who can bring us in, factual information. When he looks at a piece of land or we come point to a piece of land, he can say, oh, this needs X, Y, and Z. So we know where to focus in and narrow on things that need to change. You need someone in commercial real estate person who has contacts for those developers. So to put a committee together, I really think through of not names, but positions. What kind of people do you need? And then fill in the blanks afterwards of who that is. So you have a good working, educated committee who has the same goal and will be in their interest as well. So that's kind of been my thought process of this thing.
Great, thank you for those comments. Oh, at home, we can't hear the speaker. Oh,
Because
we gotta bring,
the-
sorry, okay. Sorry about that, people online. So anyone else?
I have a question.
Okay,
The first thing highlighted in this memo is the availability of reasonably priced. I heard mention of HUD grants, which are almost exclusively affordable housing. Is that what's envisioned for the committee to study?
The committee will have to determine what they would like to pursue. I mean, the idea is
Have
just,
you applied for the HUD grant?
no,
I'm just asking out of, I don't know.
no, I'm not actually sure that Hopkinton's eligible for most of those grants. You don't meet poverty thresholds. It's a good thing, but we are kind of stuck in the middle in terms of that kind of federal assistance, but separate topic. The committee will have to determine, you know, what avenues they want to pursue, whether it's altering our zoning, whether it is pursuing, maybe the committee will recommend forming a commission. You know, there are all kinds of outcomes that can come from, it's a study committee, it's to provide, to be able to do the study, provide some guidance and some, just dig into the information for those land use boards.
Aaron?
Just so everybody's clear, when we talk about affordable housing, Rob Davis has divided this in.
Karen, can you come?
oh yeah,
talk?
thanks for talk.
Rob Davis has divided this in.
Sorry, can you wait until you get up here? The people, nobody can hear, sorry.
Is this it? Oh, there it is.
There's one there.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So that there's no misconceptions on what affordable housing is. Affordable housing is $317,000 right now for Hopkinton, according to Rob Davis. It may changed maybe in the last couple of weeks or so, but that is affordable housing. So for Hopkinton, so there are different names you'll hear, and it's not necessarily affordable housing. When we're talking about trying to get the cashier to be able to live here in Hopkinton. I don't know if 300 and some odd thousand is going to be the number. So there needs to be a great diversity of people from different organizations and not just the Economic Development Committee and not just the businesses in order to try to meet this challenge so that everybody of all makes, kinds, whatnot, will have an opportunity to live and work here. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. All right, any other discussion for this group? No, all right, do we need to, I guess, process-wise, next step would be just our support in general, or do we need a motion to like officially?
And where you want it to go from here. You want to put a group together with a charge and everything together. You would do that. You're assigning that out.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I mean, if the select board is in favor of the committee idea, you know, I think the EDC could make a recommendation and give it back to this body, and then we could then decide if it looks okay or tweak it and then try to staff it.
Mhm.
I'm supportive of what you're suggesting, but let the EDC also bring in the planning board. With their comments, those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll be glad to meet with the EDC, representatives from the planning board already on the EDC. But again, I don't just even if it's an initial meeting to kind of
formulate, assist.
Mhm.
And being able to put something together to, that is more inclusive. For a future meeting, the select. Would be more than from a planning perspective. I'm sure the other committees would be as well.
Mhm. Great, thank you.
So, yeah, so the EDC and planning board have a appointment tomorrow evening to talk, and so we can pick this up to our groups tomorrow. And then the EDC also meets next Wednesday, so there, if you wanted to continue discussion then, we can have more planning board members attend then. And then when is your next meeting?
The 23rd?
23rd.
23rd. Okay, so we could actually potentially, if we are efficient and we really focus on this. in the next
Don't
couple of
overpromise.
weeks- I know, I will not overpromise, but we could potentially come back on the 23rd with a proposed committee.
I suggest touching base with the Conservation Commission.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well,
And all of those meetings are open.
yeah.
Interested in them.
Well, thank you, Anna, and everybody for your comments, and appreciate you putting together this outline and
Yeah,
plan.
absolutely. Is it okay with you all if I post this on our website, the memo that I provided to you? So it's,
Yeah, because it's
with that, right?
it's public.
record. So I'll put that up there so anyone watching and listening can see some of the stats, and I do have a little definition loosely of affordable housing, what the meaning is of affordable housing in there, and so I'll post that for folks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so are we right on time?
Yes.
All right, it is 6:01 and we have our next appointment, the American Legion regarding a Keno warrant article request.
So. Set that on the table.
Hi.
Nobody's arguing, yes, sir. We're back again.
Nice.
We learned a lot last year, and neither Dale and I are political, so it was our first rundown.
Will you guys just say who you are and where you're from? Just so everybody
My
knows?
name is Stuart Lyman, a financial officer for the American Legion in Kentucky.
Gotcha.
Dale Warner, commander of the American Legion.
Okay.
So essentially, he's a CEO and I'm the treasurer. Okay. We learned a lot. We came to you guys. We got some help from the state. And one of the things that I think the state learned that we learned, by the way, KJ is not available, but she will, the lady who was here from the state was very good last year.
Yeah.
Is that this should have probably been in the town meeting on Saturday so we could explain it to people rather than at the Tuesday vote, because we had a ton of people come to us afterwards and told us, we thought that they wanted a casino. In fact, you had people come to you and say they wanted to have a casino. They thought they were voting for a casino rather than what we were voting for.
Yes, I certainly agree. There was a lot of misinformation.
There was a lot of, it was not necessarily misinformation, but it was a lack of information, a lack of what we were looking to
And
do.
it's only, I don't want to interrupt too much, but it's only because in the rules that they gave us, I don't know if you guys all have these rules,
Yeah.
but the thing says, and which is what you put into the town report, and said, shall you allow the operation of Keno within the town or city?
No explanation,
No
no
discussion,
anything
no
else.
nothing.
Yeah,
But it did exactly what it said you're supposed to do. We didn't know that.
yeah.
And so a lot of people read that and said, oh, yeah, no, we don't want to do that.
So after that, and we spent some time talking to people that day, we were out there, Ken Wasson, who's one of the also on executive committee, and I spent almost all day on that Tuesday and talked to people. We kind of realized that what we need to do is we need to be able to present this in front of the town meeting on Saturday. So KJ unfortunately couldn't be here tonight because she was our walking encyclopedia about all things lottery. Last year, every time you guys would ask me a question, I'd point over my shoulder because she knew, and she did talk to you, right? She said she called you.
So the process, the only thing difference from this year than last year is A, we'd like to do it at the town meeting. B, I talked to you about, and that's probably just, it's a logistical matter that get permission for her to speak, and she can do that as a non-voting something or other. So she can be there at least to address any concerns. But the big thing is we still have to go through this three-step process we did last year. We still have to have a public, the public hearing. I'm going to read it to you because it came from KJ, and you should have a copy of this. The timeline for the March 2023 town meeting, since you have noted you wanted to vote to happen on the 18th rather than the 14th, I estimate that the public hearing would be needed to happen between February 16th and March 3rd, at least 15 days, but not more than 30 days before the vote. If this moves to the Tuesday vote, which I hope it does not, then it would be adjusted somewhat. So it's, as you folks know, it's a two-step process. We have to come in front of you, request to have the public meeting, and then to put it on the ballot on the 14th. Where there was misunderstanding last year was the state still would like, and I understand we can do this, and I think I mentioned it to you, with 5 people, is they would like to see it as a paper ballot, but it doesn't have to be on Tuesday. It can be on Saturday, because in the past, she told me it doesn't have to be. They just recommended it to make sure it's clear. That's the only thing. It's not mandated, but they just recommend it. But I understand that on a Saturday, we can do that with just a
Paper ballot.
on Saturday for
As
that.
opposed to yea
And
or nay.
I don't want to commit us to that because there have been some changes in the law. So when KJ gets here for the public meeting, if I have to kidnap her, that's on record now. We'll ask her about what the state is thinking right now. The other thing that's going to change as of this year, the legislature has expanded Keno a little bit. Places like Mr. Mike's will be able to sell Keno tickets, but they will be, the way she explained it to me, it'll be no different from them selling lottery tickets. There can be no screen, there can be no, what did she say? I know she talks about this.
It's the monitor screen.
There's
that
no
you would
monitors, no
sit and
game,
watch.
there's no, it's not like it would be done at see, there's only a few places in town that can have a monitor, us, the golf course, and the Lakeside. There's only 3
But
places.
Lakeside's not interested. They weren't last year.
They're not- And
The Country Club, Golf Club, we had talked to them this fall. He is still interested, but we couldn't get a hold of him to
For tonight.
come here tonight.
Yeah.
And I tried to get a hold of Brian Cressy as well, doing the new restaurant, which was the covered bridge. He may or may not want to get involved with that as well. But really, so it's really only the 2 places that are interested. And all it is it's a little 2-foot square machine that allows you to do the keynote tickets. And then there's a monitor on the wall.
And
So
we
you can actually come in and sit down and watch it.
and Mr. Mike's, et cetera, would not be allowed to have that.
No.
That is just for the men's places we mentioned. So I think the reason we're coming back to you folks again, not that we really would like to do this, we get dragged in, is that we've really got a clear picture that we went the wrong direction last year. That we didn't have a venue because of the way the law is written, and there was the fact that you folks had to put in basically without description of what this thing is. People didn't know what they were voting for, so it was too easy to vote against it. So that's what we're going to request is, well, I guess, because I'm not so sure I know exactly what the wordage is, but what we're requesting right now is simply the public meeting sometime between the 16th and March, excuse me, 16th of February to the 3rd of March. You know, do you folks have a meeting in between those two? Would that work?
So you're really requesting that it be put on the warrant, is what you're requesting, and then we'll make sure the public hearings happen.
Okay,
Yeah, so
whatever you.
so we can get it to be presented at town meeting as opposed to a few days before.
Tuesday.
On the written.
What's our deadline for including it in the warrant?
You're having your first look by the end of the month. So,
I mean, I am happy to, I'm supportive of having a vote.
Yeah,
We had one last time, did it the way you asked for.
and absolutely.
No, and you guys did exactly what was written.
I would support putting it on the warrant, let people vote on it. Whether to do a paper ballot is a different story, because that gets a negative reaction a lot of times at town.
And I don't think it's absolutely mandatory, so when we get KJ in here for the public hearing, we can pin her down on that. I wish she could be here tonight, because
She's
she,
not making that decision now, but
yeah.
I'm okay with it.
I'd agree with Jeff, and I'm wondering about the paper ballot would also be up to Sarah Pacino.
Isn't that made on, the-
No, it's if 5 people requested.
Oh, right,
writing,
that's right.
5 registered voters requested writing, you have to do it.
And I don't believe, Jeff, that it's actually required anymore. They were pushing it last year, but I think, okay, so the backstory in that was they got one town someplace that they were all done. They couldn't really tell how many yeas and nays they have. That was, I guess that happens sometimes. So,
Yeah, but I mean, well, Sarah is very good about it. She will have people go up and hand count.
yeah.
Put your hand up, hold it up until I can tell you to put it down. She's very good about that. In this town, I wouldn't worry about that,
Mhm.
but I understand some towns have different moderators than we do. I wouldn't mess with her.
So what is this
She
meeting?
has already asked me about it, if we wanted, if we were gonna bring it back up again.
Yeah,
And I told her some of the questions last year was the additional traffic and things that we might have on Boundary Road. It's really gonna be negligible. What we're hoping for is the campground, which is right down the street.
in the
There's
summer.
hundreds of people that go to Hillsborough Legion,
Yeah.
or they go into Bow or Hooksett or wherever it's allowed. It'd be nice to get them to come down the street to our place and they stay in town, and then that opens up our town for the,
Mhm.
you know, the Dimitri's, what was Dimitri's or whatever, and
Mhm.
keep them in town instead of taking off, go somewhere else.
So I have a question. So if you guys put this on the this warrant article at the end of the month, what is this thing that they've got here, the public hearing? What is that? That has to be done between 15 and 30 days prior.
When I think the idea is that we notice the public can come and
Okay.
ask questions and
And we can be here for that, and we,
give input.
okay.
I would encourage you guys to.
And then we, as I said, I'm gonna kidnap KJ, because she said she could make it, but the problem is this, as you know, they got like 2 people in the, what they call a charitable gaming for the state. And this is the time of the year where any town that's thinking about this, so is.
They're in demand right now.
Yeah, somebody got ahead of her before we did. That was, but she said she would try to make that public hearing, and she was excellent last year.
Yeah.
You know,
And another thing we just figured out the other night, that whichever entity sells that winning ticket, like right now is 1 billion. And if it's a single winner, the store that sold it gets 1%,
wow.
which in this case is $10 million.
Yeah.
$10 million and
They're not gonna sell Mega Millions tickets from a Keno terminal.
Yes, you can.
they said we would.
That's a first that I've heard of that between
Uh-huh.
last year and this year.
So,
They said-
I'm pointing it out so that you make sure you mention it in whatever presentation you do.
Mhm.
so I want to backstep a second. I want to make sure that I'm right before I say that. Now, while she's here again. That's my understanding, but when she gets here next time,
Make it
make
a
sure.
bit to ask her,
That's
Yeah.
a good question though, because that's the way I heard it, but
Yeah,
I
I want
didn't
to
see
make
it
sure.
right.
Yeah,
because I've only been in a place with a Keno machine once. And I don't recall if it had lottery tickets as well as Keno. Thought it just had Keno, but I could easily be.
guess what? You have been in one place more than he and I have. All right. So,
yeah. No, I heard
You guys ought to take a field trip to the Hillsborough Legion and see how it works.
we have so full of people. It's absolutely amazing. The place is packed.
all right,
I can't do it. It's too loud for me.
yeah.
I also am supportive of scheduling the public hearing and putting it on the warrant.
Thomas, were you trying to-
Yeah, so last year is a petition warrant article, correct? It wasn't from the select board?
No,
It was.
it was from us.
With us.
It was,
Yeah.
okay. Got it. Wait, so if it was from us, but we didn't put on the ballot, we didn't put a recommendation on it, right?
We phrased it the way the law requires, which was no explanation at all. Do you want Keno or you don't? And that was the whole question.
Yep, and that's
But it-
what's written.
And so, and
I think
I
you
don't think we didn't. Yeah, we
Okay.
didn't.
you took no position.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Go
And
ahead.
And just to be clear, so I might have missed it. Something changed between last year and this year that allows us to put it into the Saturday session as opposed to voting?
We were actually requesting that we could do it on Saturday instead of the written, because if you do it on the written one, it's gonna say the same thing as it did last year.
They
Which
had
doesn't
the
explain
option to
anything.
do it at the Saturday session last year, but they requested the written ballot on Tuesday.
Got
They've decided that wasn't a good strategy last year because they couldn't
Right, okay.
explain what they're trying to do.
Great. So you can do either way. Last year was requested, we go that way. Got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I think the state was helping us, but sometimes they don't help you exactly the way you want to be helped.
I'm from the government, I'm here to help.
So they're very nice, but I think they'd let us really want to be like.
Yeah, I'm looking at the statute. It's interesting. It says it will be placed on the warrant and shall be voted on a ballot. I thought last year, I thought that there was some reason it was on the Tuesday vote. It was just.
Because we asked.
It's because you asked.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought there was.
We asked
something
because
that-
the lady from the state suggested
Okay,
that you want to do it in the writing
On
form.
writing.
okay.
What we should have said is, now that we know, we should have said we'd like to have it on Saturday, but we'd like to have it as a paper ballot on Saturday.
Yeah.
But it's a recommendation. It wasn't a demand. And I think that was the misunderstanding we had.
We'll check the statute. Does the statute say a ballot vote?
Says on a ballot.
In a town, the question shall be placed on the warrant of an annual town meeting under the procedure set out in RSA 39(3) and shall be voted on a ballot.
Okay,
It's interesting that.
so we can do it on Saturday, but it has to be done by a paper ballot, but this takes 5 people, you're saying, right? Okay,
Yeah, it's a low bar.
yeah,
I don't even think you need 5 people if it says it in the law.
I know, yeah, it's,
If that's correct, the warrant article will say ballot vote.
okay,
But it'll be on Saturday, not on Tuesday.
yes, yes. which
Yeah,
gives
that
us-
will give us an opportunity to
talk
explain
about it.
what it is. It's not a casino. It's a little machine.
And that was our sound, and that's, it's right, take questions. That was the thing we got the most comment on was people thought we were building a casino. This was gonna be Foxborough and Hopkinton, and that was like, wow, no. As a matter of fact, the state said they'd never allow it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even, if we wanted it or not, the state would not allow it, you know.
So it depends, but that's a question for them.
Your Indian heritage.
okay, so. Do we need to take a vote then we'll just say
I
it's
think your
going, okay,
consensus is fine because you'll vote on the warrant.
okay,
Yeah,
There is,
I'm also-
it is on the draft warrant.
yeah. Okay,
So we can get this before your, whatever the next meeting is, and we'll come back. You let us know when that meeting is, when you want
I don't know
us.
when we're gonna schedule, when we schedule.
So then just the question, just to make sure I'm understanding about this, it has to be done within certain dates in February to March. That's, you set that, correct? Okay.
Right,
All right.
yes. And we'll compare that. They'll look at the draft warrant tonight, and there are a couple that require public hearings, so we'll probably do them all at once, provided they all are within the time frame for each.
I think the 21st.
That sounds,
The 20th is President's Day. I don't know if we meet on President's Day.
actually, I think you meet the next week.
27th?
I think we meet the 27th.
Okay.
So I think that's probably the date.
27th of January,
February.
February.
If you can let me know when you decide that exactly, then I will get a hold of the
We'll
state.
confirm that.
Yeah, well, I'll get a hold of the state lady to make sure she's available. The earlier the better.
Yeah, because she can answer all the technical questions.
You know.
okay, great.
We should have had her up at the table last year, but she wouldn't do it. She's not allowed to sit up here. She can sit in the back.
Oh, that's all right. I think that's probably all for now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're good, guys.
Okay. Next up is old business. We have 2022 financial update.
Sorry. So you received it in your packet. As you look at this budget, since the 2022 budget, all the payroll has been entered. The last payroll was last week. We do still have some 2022 invoices coming in. Most of those will run today, but after this report is done. And there are encumbrances of 188,000 that come out of this also. It looks like there will probably be about $150,000 remaining when we are complete. So revenue, Kelly tonight was working. She's pretty close to having that done. So we'll have that set to that. That's looking good as it has all year. Some notes, one of the reasons that we had the surplus is we only spent $2,900 in legal, which is pretty amazing, other than the settlement payment, which is pretty amazing. It just happened to be one of those things. We were over 21,000 in non-settlement payments in legal last year. It just was one of those years that you never know. We came in 64,800 under on health insurance. And if you'll remember, we did not increase the health insurance line last year. We kept it level. And partly because we were down staff in places and because of changes in plans, we ended up with a good surplus there. Workers' comp had a 29,300 surplus due to the risk pool return of their surplus. Police officer wages were down under 75,000 because we were down so many people. Fire department call wages were under by 21,000. That's good. We hope we don't have to use those, although we were at last night at the house fire in Warner. DPW part-time wages was underspent by 34,000. We were short staffed there. And welfare vendors were actually under by 28,000, which is surprising, but we really should thank Alicia, who really tapped into state and federal funds for fuel assistance and all of those things, and sent people to CAP and all those places to get those funds. So we were under, as we discussed during the budget, we're not really anticipating that will be the case in this coming year. But so generally, that's where we stand.
That's great. The encumbrance, the 188,000, that's basically in the shimming and paving line.
Yes, and there was 8,000 in, it's 180 in shimming and paving and 8,000 in assessing professional services.
Okay. Cemetery, is there an adjustment coming, a payment coming from?
Yes.
And similarly for economic development?
Yes, there'll be another, the diff district payment, those transfers are in process.
Okay, and there was an article in the Concord Monitor the other day about retirement rates dropping, and just for people's benefit, we've already taken that into account in next year's budget.
That is correct. It starts July 1. So we did decrease the retirement. The rate dropped.
Okay. And I'll just ask you to provide the expenditure summary page and the revenue summary page to budget committee.
Right. We'll do that. We'll add what we did today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So we were updated.
Thank you. And thank Kelly.
All right, thanks, Neil. That brings us to new business, 2023 town meeting draft warrant.
And I apologize for not sending it to you.
That's okay.
That it's not in your packet. It was late. It really was dumb.
We believe you.
we still have at least one more meeting, two more meetings before we have to,
At least two, because the one in January, we have to post it by
30th?
February 27th.
27th.
It's the last, actually, it might be the 30th. We usually post it by Friday, but I think it's Monday, the 30th. That's right.
There's no 30.
We
Wait,
don't have
yeah.
February
No,
30.
I think, yeah.
You mean,
Even in a leap year, we don't have that.
I was confused which month we're talking about.
27th or
29th, wait, 28th unless it's a
28th is a
a
two.
leap year, it's a leap.
It doesn't-
Okay, so the end of February.
Assumed in this draft that you would sign it on the
28th.
14th, so that's 3 meetings from
Okay,
tonight and then 2 more.
got it. Okay.
So how does the addition of the Legion warrant article?
So that is warrant article.
It's at the end.
So
Ninth.
I think we might have a problem with the keynote thing. I was reading the RSA 39.3, I think says it has to be a petition article.
It wasn't last year.
Yeah. I don't think it has to be petitioned.
So it says in accordance with RSA 39.3, RSA 39.3 says it has to be done through at least 25 people. And in that section, it specifically says that towns can do it that way, but cities can do it through the legislative body. So like, I figure if it could be done through the legislative body, it wouldn't just say cities can do that, not towns.
There's a,
I think it might have to be.
there's another RSA and I forget where it is, but it says we can put on the warrant anything that can be put on the warrant by petition, like we, the select board can. And so
Got it.
even though that language may restrict it to only by petition, I think we can still do it without having it be petitioned to put on. Because that is what we did last year.
Mine's dead.
But thankfully we have time to run that down.
Yeah, it's also super, I mean, like the ballot thing is, it specifically says by ballot vote, which is also weird.
It is odd, yeah.
It's just, all of it seems like it's unclear how it is. It seems like they're trying to make a very specific way it's supposed to happen, and it's not clear what that specific way is supposed to be.
Or they were trying to give you options because they wanted it to pass.
Yeah.
Because they get money. You want to walk through the warrant.
Okay. Yeah,
So these are the election of officers. These are the ones that are up. We did post on our website. It's posted here in yellow and posted everywhere else. Posted on Facebook also. The signups, which we begin the second to the last Wednesday of January, and I think it's February 3rd. The hours are posted.
Okay, Neil, before you go forward under the beginning, the official ballot voting day section, you still have Keno in there. You say Articles 1 and 2, and then you mentioned Keno.
I see. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Zoning amendments are going to final hearing. Then there's the road bond, the sewer bond, operating budget.
Okay, with regards to the bonds, my understanding is they have to go first on the warrant. But in terms of the way I always present financial stuff, could I still give an overview of what we'll be seeking in terms of increases to the operating budget, and so people have an understanding of the whole picture before they end up having to vote on bonds?
Can we vote? We can't vote to take them out of order. What bonds has to be first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think bond council would.
Over $100,000, yeah.
I don't mind you doing an overview of the operating budget. Just, I think there's a lot of potential for confusion there.
Well, I'm thinking, what I give to the budget committee is an overview of everything, including the operating budget, including the bonds.
Neither of the bonds affect this year's operating budget, so
Well-
it seems like that would cause confusion. And it's really the moderators calling things. But I think
She scares me.
what. Generally, you have a motion on the floor before you.
It's probably easier for me if I don't do an overview first. But I thought it might be, provide more information to people.
If you don't do it that way, you'll probably end up answering a lot of questions before you even get to your overview. Which is not a bad thing, but
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think however we present these bond issues, we need to make the point that these bond issues don't affect this year's operating budget. That the debt service begins next year, and that's when the impact's gonna be felt. Because it's
Yeah.
not gonna be insignificant.
They're always clear about that amount that.
Yeah.
Is estimated next year. Well, the warrant articles do include the tax rate impact. 10 and 20 years.
Maybe wait until Sarah comes to one of our meetings and work that out.
Mhm.
But the bonds was, and then the operating budget. Capital reserve. Actually, in the past, when we've had big bonds, we haven't done anything with that. Trust funds. One actually, with our surplus, my suggest, this is a one that you haven't discussed yet, is to put 10,000 of that into the payroll liability trust that we formed last year, specifically out of fund balance. And we put 10 in last year, so that would get us to 20. So that's almost at where we would need it to be.
So we did not touch that this year.
We did not. No. So I don't know if you have any discussion, if you want me to keep that or not. Basically, the draft has everything I thought was possible with her.
what's the petition warrant article deadline?
February, it's late because everything is late. I think it's February 7th.
Okay. So we could get some petition articles that would need to go on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Article 9 is to expend from pay by bag. Article 10 is the setting of the bag price, which we haven't done for a few years.
I thought we were going to craft a warrant article that said the select board can establish the price of the bags based on tipping fees and the cost of acquiring the bags.
It does have the phrase further to authorize the select board to annually set the price of bags.
So this says to continue at these prices, and these prices aren't right.
Yeah, you're right.
Actually, the prices have changed, but the wording didn't.
The current price is like $1.25 for the big ones.
Right, and I included in there. So what I did is I went back and looked at how we had originally figured it, and we assumed. That's the other spreadsheet, the poundage that would go in each bag.
Right. No, I see. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on,
You're right, it should not
Our
say
docs.
continue.
but it's either set the price, not continue the price. I think we want to be able to, set the price annually.
So you want to change this to say, instead of continue to set the current price?
No.
I would rather just authorize the select board to annually set the price of bags.
That's what it says.
Oh, and then take out the take out.
I see.
I see. Okay. The continue and the dollar amounts, just say set the price annual. Okay, yeah.
I would maybe say, sorry, go ahead, Neil.
The only disadvantage of that is if they vote no to give you the authority, then the price stays the same as it is now. Although I suppose you
If
could.
they said no, it'd still be the same as it is today, right?
So I would make a really strong argument that the price of the bag should probably be double that price. And
I don't disagree with you, Thomas.
No, I know, but I'm saying that like if we're gonna authorize a select board to be able to set the bags, we should also at the same time be setting the expectation for where the price of those bags might end up. Because I don't want to end up in a scenario where we say we should be able to set the price of bags and everyone says, yeah, that's fine, we like where they're at, we should just keep doing that. And then the select board has a public hearing and we decide to double the price of the bags, and then that is a much different expectation than what people might have thought.
Are we required to have a public hearing if we change the price of the bags?
Well, that'd be
Under this scenario.
Yeah, we're not.
This scenario, if you had the authority to do it.
Why would we? Yeah.
No, we wouldn't. I know. I'm saying like best case scenario, we hold a public hearing and then we change the price of bags to double the price of bags. And then like if we don't have to do that and then we decide that the price of bags should be much higher. If we're going to increase the price of bags significantly from where they are now, it's better to have that at least that first large jump. If there's going to be a large jump, that at least first large jump should be discussed. And then, I mean, to me, if we're going to have the select board continually annually set the price of bags, that's very useful for changes in the tipping fees to just continually adjust that, or if there's a change in the bag cost to adjust for that. But if there's going to be a really large jump, it's probably best to not have that be kind of like a weird surprise.
I would think if there's going to be a large jump, there needs to be a better plan on how we're going to enforce it moving forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is sort of related to the Article 11.
Yeah, I was wondering when I looked at this, if we shouldn't reverse the, put the rescind pay by bag before setting the bag prices. Setting the bag prices may become academic.
Yeah.
Well, and you had talked about rescinding it, so I threw that in there. That was.
Yeah, and I touched base with Bonnie Christie about, because the waste reduction committee, we had asked sort of and recommended that they take a fresh look at green bags and come up with options and make a recommendation to us. But so I've connected with her, and I think you guys talked too, obviously, because you're on that. I don't think that they have done that as a committee.
Embrace the change.
What's that?
They've not embraced the change.
Okay, so they have not done that yet, but I am in touch with Bonnie, and hopefully, I don't know if they have their meeting scheduled or not, but hopefully they can do that, and so we can have a discussion about the whole program. So yeah, I guess the bottom line is not much has been done on that, I don't think. So reverse the order of those.
Makes sense. If we keep it on there, yeah.
I'm not so sure it does make sense, but. Because if once people, well, I guess because it's public, it's okay. But people are more likely to say yes before they're deciding to rescind.
You think?
It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we don't have to land on exact order right now, right? We can,
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to leave in the setting of bag prices? Do we want to leave the prices in there? And I think Thomas makes a good point that if those prices are going to go up, it might be helpful to have that discussion at the meeting so that people understand versus just giving us the authority to do it.
Yeah, certainly more transparent. if we
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
I don't like the prices being in there at all. mean, I think we can have a discussion about, we're losing money on every bag. Today, we're losing money on every single bag that we sell. And it's hurting us. Prices have been raised in over 10 years. They need to be adjusted. Thomas is right. I don't know what the methodology is going to be. Neil produced a methodology that we've used in the past, but that doesn't mean it's right. Nothing against you, Neil.
No.
It doesn't mean it's necessarily the right approach. It doesn't consider, any overhead for the transfer station or any of those types of things.
That basically covers the bag cost and the tipping.
Right, bag and tipping fee, that's all it is.
If we were going to leave the number, if we're planning on having the numbers shake out to be the 85 cents and the 170, then I don't see any point in having the numbers there, because the purpose of this then is so that we can adjust it over time based on the increase in costs, and that seems totally fine.
Right.
But if we think that there might be recommendation to double that cost, then then I think that number needs to be in there.
I disagree. I think you'll get shot down for sure. And we don't know what the number's gonna be.
Yeah, I guess that's my concern is it feels like a little bit of, unless we hash this out right now and land in a place, which we could do, but
Yeah,
rather not be locked in, but not because I don't want to be transparent, but just because it feels like a little bit of a moving target right now.
yeah, I actually agree with that. I think that the purpose of this is that the select board needs to be able to set the price of bags. Like,
Right.
what
And
the
not once
number
every
is,
10 years.
right? And having a number in there confuses the prospect of that. It's not we're voting on a number and that the select board needs to be able to set the price of the bags as it changes over time. The what that number should be, I think, is a different conversation altogether. I just want to make sure that if that number does increase in the future, we need to get as many people involved in it as possible, because I don't want to end up in a place where all of a sudden it's jumping to where it maybe should be, and people don't know about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so rewrite it without the numbers.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as authorizing the select board to set the price of the bags.
And the next one, which may be the next or the previous one, is the possibility of rescinding.
Yeah. In years past, I feel like except for maybe last year, usually it comes in as a petition warrant article.
Does, we haven't had it for a long time, but there had been discussion amongst the board, so that's why.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You don't have to put this in.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like, I guess my assumption was that after waste reduction gave us some input, would sort of revisit
Yeah,
whether this was going to stay on here or not.
yeah. Well, I'll see when their next meeting is, and I'm not sure there's gonna be any
Thursday.
next Thursday, okay,
So there's time.
yeah. Do you have a
Yeah, I
question?
mean, I'm all for the pay by bag program, but I think that from all of my discussions to date, it's always been, everyone recognizes that it's not super working now. So to me, it's not so much do we get rid of it, it's more of like,
Yeah.
if there's a way to fix it, we need to fix it.
Right, yeah.
So yeah.
Did you have a
To me, this is a good forcing function. Like, it's a good way of saying, like, we need to fix it. And if we're not going to fix it, then we should get rid of it.
Yeah. I think there's a question I just wanted to.
Trisha Lambert, Gallery Rose. Just first question, I guess, is remember why we started bags in the first place? Which I think is recycling. And the second question is, what's the status of this? And if they're buying it, all those good things.
Yeah.
Are they accepting it? Were they accepting? So go hand in hand.
Yeah, so just to repeat for the 0 to 1 people online, in case you couldn't hear, the question was basically, what was the original purpose of the program? Is that Am I paraphrasing? Yeah, and then also just like the status of recycling and where we are with what's recyclable, what's being taken at this point, what it costs, yeah, the market, which are all very important things, so. So just for anyone interested, Thomas did do a very helpful presentation, I think in July or August on green bags. And we did talk about some of these issues then, and then sort of hoped that the waste reduction committee would take it on. So yeah, I agree. It feels like there's no great answer, but saying if we can't fix it, we need to rescind it. You know, that feels like kind of where we are right now. If there's a way to improve it, that would be. And I remember in your presentation, Thomas, you had laid out sort of a grid of possibilities, so. Yeah.
Just to answer your question a little more directly, it was originally started to encourage a higher level of recycling. And our recycling levels have been sort of steady. They dropped off a little bit. And the recycling markets really took a hit in the early COVID time. They've come back pretty strong here in the past 18 months. We made a lot more money last year than we had expected. But it's a commodity, right? If there's too much on the market, the price goes down. If there's not enough, it goes up. And there's no real way to predict that. I forget the name, Northeast Resource Recycling is sort of the broker that we use. So all our stuff goes to them. They package it up with other towns and sell it, and we get our piece of the action, if you will.
The one thing too that's important is even if we're making very little on it, it means it isn't going in the hopper and we're not paying out.
Right.
Anything that doesn't go in the hopper.
And
I'm paying the tipping.
And then whatever it is, $90 a ton is the tipping fee, give or take.
Yeah.
It saves a lot of money because we recycle hundreds of tons.
I appreciate that clarification. Just I think in the beginning, when everybody voted on it, it's for that purpose. As long as it's for that purpose, that would be great. And we can raise it. That's for other reasons to offset. It should be clear.
Yeah, no, I don't know who's gonna make the presentation, but I'm afraid I do know. But yes, it'll be made very clear in the presentation, that the avoided tipping fees are a big piece of the value of the recycling program. It's as important as the money we receive from recycling. And we're raising the price of we're hoping to raise the price of the bags because they haven't been raised since 2010 when the program was instituted. And our tipping fees have gone from $55 a ton to $90 a ton. And the cost of producing the bags has gone up. So we're losing money from every bag. And the current requirement is that any increase in the price of the bags has to go through town meeting, which is a silly requirement, but it's how it was written originally.
It was how it was amended originally.
Oh, okay.
On the floor.
Oh,
That was not the original.
It's worth noting that as part of the purpose of the green bag program is to reduce waste and incentivize recycling. And there are a lot of communities in New Hampshire that do implement pay by bag programs really successfully. And in all of those scenarios, the cost of the bag should be significantly more than the cost of just the tipping fee. Generally, a good indicator to where that price should be is the net cost. It should be a net revenue stream from the transfer station as opposed to a net cost. So that's why the cost of the bag, if we're to try to set the price to be what it's intending to do to reduce waste, it should be significantly higher to achieve that goal.
One of the issues we've always had is Webster. Has there been any movement on Webster that anybody's aware of?
no.
No, they're kind of in the middle of a bunch of other things.
Greg, did you have a
Well,
comment?
I was just asking or going to ask if we're unique in our situation and pay by bag programs, sharing with another town that is, I didn't know if there's an example in the state that handles it better than we do to try to offset how much costs.
Yeah, it feels like a major flaw in our
I
program.
think a lot of the pay by bag programs are also curbside pickup.
So
Makes
Yeah.
it traffic.
doesn't get picked up if it's not.
And,
Right.
and there was the town, we also did a study in 2015. We put together a committee to look at more solutions to or to just the pay by bag program as a whole. And the big recommendation from that subcommittee was to do curbside pickup. So that was also looked at, and there's reasons why that wasn't available then. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the big crux of the problem.
In 2015, though, the cost was over $1 million to add our side, so I probably just double that now.
As well as that there are very rural parts of the town and commercial industrial, I don't think was part of that study.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it was totally feasible. Yeah, it's not an easy. There's no easy. If there was an easy solution, we'd be doing it.
Agreed.
There is, just put one person at the transfer station, check driver's licenses for everybody who comes in.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask too, instead of a pay by bag, if it could be a permit or a sticker mandated to use it.
They did look, that was looked at originally.
It just seems like the cost of managing bags in general versus coming in and if you go to.
The complexities of being with a town that doesn't require bags is the real.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get
All right.
25 people to petition a warrant article in Webster. To do that.
It's going to be asphalt on the driveway. Where we use the base.
And if you don't have to pass, it drops the arm on you. Right?
We haven't
Yeah.
talked trash at town meeting in a couple of years, so it's.
Yeah,
overdue.
time. Definitely overdue. Okay.
Article 13 is the readoption of the optional veterans credit. The state legislature changed the optional veterans tax credit. I believe, my understanding is the main change is they now allow somebody in active military service to be part of it. But when they did that, it somehow
Change the wording.
changed it, so we have to re-adopt it or it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way it was written, and the next one is readoption of okay, that's the optional. So it would revert to $50 per year, which is the standard amount. And Hopkinton's been at 500, like many towns for years and years. And then all veterans we adopted a number of years ago, which includes veterans who didn't serve in war. And that would also be rescinded if we don't readopt it.
Article, just a general question on that, just to save time in future years. Is it possible to readopt until rescinded, or do you have to do this every single year?
This is a one-time thing with the change, and then it stays.
Well, because it says for the 2023 property tax year, I don't know if you put in going forward.
That's when it takes effect, but it's in effect for
that.
yeah, unless the legislature changes it again this year, but. Article 15 is to discontinue dump road. So everybody can walk with their green bags from the dump.
Skip its whole.
It's not really for sure, as you heard from Thomas, whether this is a class 6 road or not. The easiest thing is this will make it not. We own both sides along with Webster, so the only people we have to notify is ourselves and Webster. The next one also came out of Thomas's committee to reclassify Graves Road from class 6 road to a class 8 trail.
Neil, on this one, do we need to do anything to make sure that there's not like a current access problem with the abutter who has their driveway that comes onto that road?
There are notification.
Okay.
I know so everybody who abuts receives notification.
Okay. Okay. Great.
And I'm just curious, why are we doing this one versus the other one?
This specific one is very actively used as the Greenway Trail, and the town doesn't have any abutting property, so we can't maintain it. So there becomes a bit of an issue if the town is maintaining it as a trail. as to whether or not that's active maintenance and converts it back into a class 5 road.
Article 17 is to lease the town-owned hydro dam for up to 41 years. This basically is the solar language converted to the hydro dam.
The 41 years, what's the,
So the existing leases.
oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Neil, could you read the warrant article that was passed 40 years ago? Because I'm not, I wasn't sure if it meant we have to go back to the town commission. But I probably won't.
I think it's pretty hard to make a case that what was voted 40 years ago allows you to do a second 40-year lease, but I can ask council. This says resolve that the town of Hopkinton in town meeting convened to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to negotiate and enter into a lease agreement with the developer for the purpose of developing hydroelectricity at the Kentucky Dam site, the H.I. Davis Dam, upon such terms and conditions and for such period of time as may be deemed by the selectmen to be in the best interest of the town. And it passed unanimously. It passed.
So I just wasn't sure if that gave us authority going forward or just the first time.
This, one of the leases, it should say not to exceed 40 years, or 20 years. I don't know what the number is, but shouldn't specify 41 years specifically. I don't think it should be up to 41 years, not to exceed 41.
Spirit shall not exceed a period of 41 years.
Okay.
Wait, so Ken, what's your question? It's whether or not,
He's asking if it needs to be voted or if the.
if it.
We already have.
if
We
that's
already
like
have the,
the-
we have the authority already.
Interesting, okay. So after
Good
that
question.
vote, that's when they entered into the 40-year lease.
Yes,
Yeah, okay. Huh.
Does that last forever?
that's what I
Well-
don't know.
Can I see it, Neil? I'm just curious.
Do we want to word it so that future boards can renew it without having to come back to town meeting?
If you can.
There'll be a town meeting 40 years from now.
You know, it's that extra warrant article every 40 years.
Hopefully we'll get a better deal than we got last time.
Sure.
I can ask council if that carries through.
That's a good question, yeah.
It is, yeah, it's enter into a lease agreement. So we had the authority to do that lease and
We did it.
it seems like we could just renegotiate that lease.
But there's an RSA that was adopted after, we did that,
Uh-huh,
which is the one that says you can't lease it forever.
right.
So I think the
Okay.
question for council is what controls here?
Yeah,
How do you define forever?
Yeah.
The energy committee is, looking into not
Yeah.
this specific question, but in general, what.
But
kind of
to this specific
these
one,
terms.
pretty soon, because that runs out.
Yes, it's number 1 or 2 on the committee's agenda.
there goes our legal budget. We gotta ask. I'm just kidding.
That's-
Okay,
I think our big expense was town meeting.
yeah.
So I'll check on that.
Yeah, okay.
Article 18 is to authorize the select board to grant easements on town-owned former rail beds. This hasn't gone by council yet either. I'm hoping that the town can vote to authorize the select board to convey trail easements on former rail beds owned by the town to an appropriate rail trail group upon such terms and conditions as the select board would deem to be in the best interest of the town.
How many former rail beds do we have in town?
Just a few, so we could name them and do that.
Yeah.
And if they say this doesn't work, we can certainly implement it. And then Keno. I'm thinking it's a ballot, if it turns out to be a ballot vote required.
It's got to move up because the ballot box got to be open for now.
Well, it doesn't, a bond does, but I don't think a Keno does, but we may want to move it up.
So we can do other
And-
business.
So we can do
Yeah.
other business
Mhm.
during that time, so.
So it only has to be open long enough for everybody present to vote.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then there was talk of something for housing, but that's out, that changed that, so that can. So there's only 20.
So great.
Like
Half an hour.
Which is 5 more than last year, but
other than Ken's budget presentation, we could be on that.
that's an hour and a half.
Well, I was still amazed that last year, the lack of questions.
It's
You did such a great job, Kevin. How much you get this year?
I thought you were gonna do it, Jeff.
I gotta do the other one. I gotta do the green bag thing. Oh, no, Thomas is doing green bag. What am I doing? Housing.
Okay.
Is there anything I missed? I think that's everything we talked about.
Yeah. Wait and see if petition warrant articles come in.
And I'll send it to council now. We haven't done that
Okay,
right here first. So. And DRA will review it too, but
okay.
most of the ones they review is their language anyways.
And remind me the date, like we can make, like if we want to take off the rescind green bags after discussion with the waste reduction committee, what's the,
So ideally you will sign it on February 13th.
right, okay.
You actually could.
But how can we do the Keno question if they can't have their public meeting until after the 16th of February?
Wait,
Well, it can go on the warrant and
Right.
that's what
Right.
triggers scheduling the public hearing, just like we'll have bond hearings.
I know, but he said the requirement is not more than 30 days before the vote.
Right.
yeah, but that's okay, because it can go on the warrant and then we have the public hearing.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's but we would have already signed it.
It's already
Yeah.
on the warrant.
right, yeah.
Really kind of, it's required, but it's really public information.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
Kind of like SB2 is too, because that's already on there. Sorry.
So.
So an item I wanted to discuss.
And so we're gonna get home. Midnight?
So. Okay, so maybe, before we have town administrator updates, we don't have any non-publics, right, Neil?
One.
Okay.
Really brief one.
So maybe we'll move up our public forum, if everyone's okay with that, for our 2 online listeners and anyone else who wants to comment. Go ahead.
I had one question, Scott Clay, Boundary Road. A few meetings back, there was a lot of discussion about speed limit signs changing in town, and which roads and all that. On Boundary, I thought what had been decided by the board was to go down to 25 miles an hour at Autumn Ridge Road. But the way the signage has been erected on the road, it's 25 miles an hour starting at Pine Street. And I didn't know if that had been changed by this board or that was a mistake or what, but it had been like 30 or 35 or something, and then now it's 25.
It's down.
Yeah, I can't remember
We'll check that.
okay. Yeah, because that would be in the ordinance. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks for flagging.
the ordinance certainly hasn't changed. So, but the signage may be wrong.
I thought, oh, is there anything in the Q&A that we should address? Yeah, okay. How does Webster not pursuing the bag affect these current numbers? Good question. Okay, so anyone else who's present? Any comments? Anyone online? All right, so we will do town administrator updates.
Sure. We received back finally all the information on the abutters on Old South Road, so we will schedule that public hearing. Those will go out certified to all the lien holders and all that. We'll have recommendations for Horseshoe Tavern next time. It's looking like that lot is probably not big enough to subdivide. So trying to find out what other options are there. Finalizing the sale on the 5 landlocked. We've got 2 people purchasing back their property, so that is taking effect. We switched cell phone companies this week to AT&T. The police have done that as part of FirstNet with the first responders and all of that. So that seems to be going well, and that should save us a little. And as you saw in your sign file, we have found a budget committee minute taker, and that is the best news in a very long time. So
Neil knows that we're probably looking at a really long budget committee meeting.
you have had some really long budget committee meetings.
The school is presenting on Wednesday.
Schools present.
TDS deed.
TDS deed is supposedly coming, and it was done, and
It's coming now? Is that
Yeah.
a recent update?
no,
That's the status quo?
that's that was mid-December.
Okay.
Everything is set, and they just need to sign it, and she was going to walk it in, and now they seem to be ignoring it.
When was the last time you nudged them?
End of last week.
Okay.
Anything for us to sign?
Oh,
Signed,
I haven't done them either.
sorry, I'm halfway through.
I hope so.
Looking for the end of the rainbow, Neil.
Okay, is that it for updates?
That is it.
Anything for other?
It doesn't, it isn't something that the select board has any authority over, but I've gotten some complaints about at the post office where they moved the mailbox. If you drive up, you used to be able to put the mail right in the driver's side. They've moved it so it's inconvenient and on the passenger side. So I don't know if we could send a letter asking them to reconsider that, or
It all got moved last year when mail was stolen out of the box, so I don't know if it's part of that.
No, well,
No,
they
it's
just
not.
moved it again. They put a smaller slot in so people can't steal stuff out, but they just moved it maybe 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
And I'm surprised that you can't actually drive through anymore.
It doesn't make sense to me.
No.
I don't know if there is some logical reason, but I didn't know if it's something,
Concord still has their drive-through ones.
but if it was something we
Honestly,
wanted to
my
wait.
assumption, without knowing, is I believe they probably moved it towards within camera, moving the camera on the building. Which could be a simple office request, you add another camera reposition. When I saw it, this makes no sense, it's gotta be security cameras, so.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like that's a little outside of our. Seems like just going in and asking.
I did not.
A little
I
outside
thought a
of
letter coming from the select.
Our
board
scope.
would have A lot more.
Huh, okay. I don't know what we could do on that, but
Okay, if people think it's well beyond our scope. It's fine.
I'll ask
Yeah.
next time I go in, but I
Yeah.
suspect Greg's right.
yeah. Okay. Anything else for other? Okay, so that brings us to the end. We have one non-public, and after that, we will adjourn and not conduct any other business, and so we can vote to go into non-public under A, so
Make a motion that we go into non-public under 91A3 Roman 2 little a for employee discipline.
Second? Ken seconded, Thomas,
Yep, sounds great.
even,
Yes.
I mean, yes, Jeff?
Yes,
Okay, we will go into non,
Thomas, can you call in by phone? Because I don't think we can keep the cameras open.
He's gone.